Hello everybody, this is Sal Carr. I am the creator of the Extra Ammos mod. Um, I'm making this video because I've had a few requests from people asking me to make a video on how I get the items up because they're trying to, obviously make their own items, and for some reason it is not uploading. Um, so I won't be able to help everybody, obviously, because everybody has different issues that are causing their errors, but I'm going to go step by step in what I do, and hopefully that'll help some people out. Because usually the mistakes, or not mistakes, but the problem that some people have is basically just, it could be something like forgetting to reference something, which you'd be surprised. It's not always as simple you know, referencing from the Ingram entry to the primal item. Sometimes it's, a texture is missing or something else. Sometimes it's it's an error that has to deal with ARC. Sometimes it's a error that's to deal with the dev kit. So I don't know how long these videos will take. I don't know if it'll take one video or two, but I'm going to try to cover all that stuff so that everybody, hopefully it'll help as much people as possible. Okay. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the poison arrow. Um, but just so I don't forget, because I just ran into this problem the other day, there is, where's it at? There is one little error that, some people might be getting, and maybe they don't know why. Uh, I don't know, but just to put it out there, when you do your description in your mod, and you put all the information out, when you upload, which I'll do right now, usually it works with no problem. Um, you'll see. Let's see, cover that for a second. And you'll see in a second. It'll work out pretty good. It'll say okay, uploaded, and that's just to show you that it does work. There's nothing wrong with it. But then, as soon as it shows that it does work, I'm going to show you one of the errors that I've run into that I don't know if anybody else does. And if they do, it's a very annoying error. And honestly, I don't know if everybody's going to catch it or figure out what's causing it because, you know, the description's not too clear. It says something about missing a key value. Okay, see, job successful, so worked. Okay. Now the problem is, and I mean, I know what the problem is now that I looked at the file, but basically, if you put double quotes in your description, you will have an error. I'm going to show you now. Let's try uploading again. Let's see. All right. Let's see. There we go. Error. Failed to parse build. Missing current key published file ID in file workshop item offset. This is the file that's getting screwed up right here, the .vdf, and you can follow it to where it tells you to. But basically, the reason is because the way this looks like in that, that VDF file is, it'll have a bunch of information, pretty much it'll have all this information in brackets, and it'll also have double quotes in there as well. Well, the problem is that it's getting confused with these. So when these get put into your description, the file actually puts them in there as well, and then the whole file gets screwed up. It's thinking like, in other words, if I put this in brackets right here, actually wrong one. We'll put it like some brackets like this. It has this information. This information is important in the file, let's say. It's in the brackets. And then it has like some quotes somewhere around here, somewhere. I can't really remember off the top of my head. I don't feel like looking at the file. So when you start throwing other quotes in there, it's getting confused pretty much. So if anybody ever puts any quotes in their description and they're having errors, that is the reason. You cannot put double quotes in your description. So that's just one error I found. Okay, that's taken care of. I wanted to clear that because I didn't want to forget. It's a very small error. I usually don't put quotes. I did it one time and it was a bad choice. So, just in case anybody else is doing that. Now, let's begin. The first thing I like to do, I just like to separate things. At first I didn't, but there's a lot of files here, and it can be very big pain in the butt to have all the files together. And I'll show you real quick. This is small. This is the a mod I did for based on a request. It's a admin tool kind of rocket. You've probably seen other people doing the same thing online. Um, which is basically that when people start the servers, they have leftover buildings and they want to destroy it. So that's what that does. Let me get you a good one. Okay, fire arrows. Now, you can see there's a few files here. I needed the material, I needed the textures, and even the same thing for my particle effects. This is what I'm talking about. Sometimes, although I don't know if everybody else is doing the same thing I'm doing, but basically when you do things like the modding items, you have to make sure you reference everything that's being used. I mean, this is the tranquil bullet that I use. You can see how many files I have. That's just for weapons, the primal items, um, the engrams. See what I'm saying? So, some people are trying to mod something simple, and it's very likely that they're just missing one or two little references. And I'm not like some expert in Unreal Engine. I am learning it a little bit more, but this is basically like for me reverse engineering. The whole point of me figuring this part out was starting off with something simple, which was the explosive arrows, and pretty much duplicating the stone arrow and the trank arrow and seeing what's the difference between them. Um, so let's start. What I'm gonna do now is this right here is my stone arrow and trank arrow stuff. I have them all thrown together. I was being lazy. I didn't want to, separate them. But basically, this was because somebody requested to change the weight, and I haven't actually tried messing with the actual data in the game, but they say you shouldn't, and you know, it would be a lot easier if I could than have to duplicate everything else, but it don't matter. So that's what this stuff is for. This is basically the stone and the trank arrow, but mostly the stone stuff. Some things you won't need. Um, for example, when I first made the trank rifle, people were saying that they couldn't load the assault rifle because um, in the Ingram list, you have to learn the long neck rifle, and I modified the long neck rifle, so you couldn't get access to it. And you can see right here, where is it at? Machine shotgun, machine rifle. These are the only things I duplicated. I didn't have to duplicate the weapons because when you look at it, I'm still referencing the original item. So not everything you need to reference to, but just whatever you're using. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make duplicates of this. Let me see, the Ingram. I'll do this one, that one, and yes, that one. Okay, so Ingram, prime item. Oh yeah, and I'm going to need, actually I don't have it right here, but I guess I could do this one. Yeah. Okay. Let me duplicate these real quick. And basically what I'm doing right now is I'm getting my, duplicate or child, however anybody does it. They say you can subclass it, which is basically making a child of an object. I just like to duplicate it. Doesn't mean it doesn't work with the child or it works any better. It's just my preference. Because I don't know everything with Unreal Engine 4 or basically this game, I don't want to risk adding more errors to the items that I mod. So that's why I'm doing this. It may work just as perfect with a child item, but if let's say you have a child item and you need to reference the parent item, let's say maybe you don't because you don't realize it because you never mess with this stuff, then you're causing yourself errors that you don't even know why. You don't know what's going on. So like I said, this just works easy for me. It doesn't have to be for everybody. Now, even though I have this in my folder separate from everything else, I do like to name it. In the beginning, I didn't. That's just me being lazy. But I do it now because when you do reference things, it's much easier to find. And because they're in separate folders, the game doesn't know the difference. So I might have, let's say, Ingram entry arrow 2, which is a duplicate for, let's say, explosive arrows. Then I do the same thing for poison arrows. Now I have two Ingram entry arrows 2s, and when I want to reference to, let's say, this, I may just get confused. So this right here is just easiest thing for me, and I believe for anybody. Okay, so let me rename these real quick. Poison. Hope I spelled that right. Alright. And the thing is, at least for me, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, damn, I did not need to erase that. Alright. Sometimes I feel like I got like ADD. You know, I forget things all the time. I don't know if anybody else does, but if you do, it's fine, you know. But what helps me sometimes so I don't forget stuff is, like, for instance, there's some things different in this, the trank that I just changed to poison, that are separate from like the regular projectile arrow stone. And sometimes I have to go back and look at how it's done in the actual game, and then, you know, fix it in mine. And I mean, you can see I've made like maybe 3 or 4 hours. I don't know off the top of my head, but very, very easy to forget how certain things work. So you may even see me do that in this video or the next, or, you know, whichever video. But you know, usually it's pretty easy. Once you get the hang of it, you usually remember. Most of the time I remember. It just depends. Okay, everything's changed. Now, you know what? I should have said something else. Quick little thing to show you. Whenever you want to mod an item, this is what I do, which I guess I should have said in the beginning. I look for that actual item first, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people do. You know, if it's gonna be a weapon for me, let's say, I'll go to weapons, and I'll look for one specific weapon. And we'll say the arrow. The easiest thing for me is to type it in up here, and I find all the things that are based on the arrow. You know, this is how I figured it out in the first place. I realized that, and you know, the reason I know most of this stuff is because, you know, I've done game programming, not with Unreal Engine 4, but, you know, when you do programming or even game programming, you learn some things about object-oriented programming and how things are referenced with each other. So I know that most of the stuff's connected. The only thing that I couldn't find that was connected was this, which was the arrow base. But since I couldn't find it in the trank arrow and all that stuff, I figured it must be something referenced in some other setting that doesn't need to be messed with. So I never worried about this. I just worry about this stuff. And right here, when I first did it, I noticed that, well, I need a primary